There's something slightly unsettling about being human. Not in a dramatic way, nothing is wrong. Your life might be stable, work is manageable, relationships are functional. And yet, most days feel like you're operating something, not actually living inside it. Here's the strange part. Every other living thing seems to come with a built-in way of being. You don't see birds anxious about their image. You don't see animals competing to be more enough. Only humans do that. Which raises a quiet question. If this is the most sophisticated mechanism on the planet, why does it so often feel misused? This isn't a video to skim. Nothing here is trying to convince you. But if you stay, you may notice something you've been standing inside your whole life without ever really seeing it. And once that happens, it doesn't undo itself. Have you noticed how much of your day runs without you being there? You wake up, reach for the phone, scroll, stand up, brush your teeth, drive, answer emails. All of it happens smoothly, almost too smoothly. If someone asked you afterward how you actually experienced those moments, you might struggle to answer, not because nothing happened, but because nothing was noticed. This is what most of us call normal. At work, you respond to a message before you've even felt your reaction. In conversation, you're already preparing the next sentence while the other person is still speaking. It's efficient, it looks intelligent, and nobody questions it. But pause for a second. When your body tenses during a meeting, when irritation flashes and disappears, when you feel a subtle pull to compare yourself with someone else, did you choose that, or did it simply occur? The strange thing is, life keeps moving perfectly well in these moments. Breathing continues. The heart keeps its rhythm, hands type, feet walk. Something is clearly functioning. Yet the one thing rarely involved is awareness of what's happening as it happens. Not because you're careless, not because you lack discipline, but because this operating mode has been treated as the default for so long that it feels like the only option. And maybe the question isn't how to control it. Maybe it's whether you've ever really noticed what's already running on its own. Why does this way of living feel so reasonable? If something feels off, the instinct is to fix it. If a thought repeats, we try to replace it. If an emotion lingers, we look for the cause. That approach works almost everywhere else. A slow laptop gets upgraded. A system underperforms, you optimize it. A skill feels weak, you train it. So when inner life feels messy, we apply the same logic, more insight, better habits, a sharper self-image. And for a while it seems to help. You feel more in control, more articulate, more together. The world rewards this. Calm on the outside, competent on the surface, able to explain yourself. But notice something small. The effort to manage yourself never really ends. There's always another reaction to handle, another moment to adjust, another version of yourself to maintain. Even rest becomes something you try to do well. No one taught us this directly, it just made sense, and because it made sense, we never stopped to question it. Not whether it works, but what it quietly costs to keep running this way. Let's slow this down with something ordinary. Think about the last time you were stressed, not the story, the moment itself. Your shoulders tightened, breathing shifted, maybe your jaw clenched without asking. Now here's the question. Did you need to understand stress for any of that to happen? Most of us do understand it. We can explain where it came from. We can name the trigger. We can talk about childhood, workload, expectations. All of that might be accurate. And yet, none of it touches the tightening itself. It's possible to know everything about a reaction and still be caught inside it. That's not a failure. It's just how this system works. Information moves in one lane, experience moves in another. We've learned to live as if the first automatically gives us access to the second. But every now and then, there's a small pause where you notice the body reacting before any explanation shows up. Nothing dramatic, just a glimpse. And once you see that gap, you may start wondering which part of your life has actually been understood and which part has only been described. Here's something almost too simple to notice. When you're walking, do you decide how each step lands? When you're listening, do you instruct your ears to hear? Most of the time, the body is already ahead of the mind, adjusting, balancing, responding. Think of a moment when you caught yourself holding your breath, no plan, no intention, just suddenly noticing it. Breath had been happening, tension had been happening, before any comment showed up. It's strange how rarely we trust this, as if life left alone might do the wrong thing. So we stay slightly leaned forward, monitoring, correcting, explaining. But every now and then, attention drops out of commentary and rests where sensation is. Feet on the ground, weight in the chair, the quiet movement of air. Nothing gets solved, nothing gets fixed. Yet something settles. Not because you made it settle, but because nothing was interfering. And that raises an uncomfortable curiosity. If so much is already functioning, what exactly have we been trying to manage all this time? Notice how quickly a moment gets labeled. Someone speaks, and before the words fully land, there's agreement, or resistance, or a quiet calculation. It happens faster than choice. In a meeting, a look crosses someone's face and suddenly you feel smaller, or irritated, or eager to prove something. Nothing was said, yet something shifted. Thought rushes in to explain it, why it happened, what it means, what it says about you. And slowly, the raw moment disappears under interpretation. This isn't a mistake, it's a habit, a very efficient one. It turns movement into meaning, sensation into story, reaction into identity. The problem isn't that this happens, it's how completely it takes over. Every experience gets filtered, ranked, placed in relation to min. So even joy comes with an edge, even success carries comparison, even silence feels unfinished. But sometimes, for a split second, you catch the labeling in the act. You feel the reaction before the explanation arrives. And in that brief space, life feels lighter. Not resolved, just unclaimed. That gap doesn't ask you to do anything with it. It simply waits to be noticed again. Have you ever noticed a moment when you stopped talking inside, without trying to? Maybe you were watching rain hit the windshield, or standing in line, feeling your feet on the floor, nothing special. For a few seconds, there was no commentary, no improvement plan, no inner narrator explaining what this meant. Life didn't pause, sounds continued, the body adjusted its weight, eyes blinked. Everything functioned. Then thought returned almost politely as if to say, "Don't worry, I'm back." And the sense of separation returned with it. What's interesting isn't the silence, it's how complete those brief moments are, without needing explanation. No one is in charge there, yet nothing is missing. We usually overlook these gaps because they don't announce themselves, they don't feel profound, they don't claim significance. But they reveal something quietly unsettling. That life doesn't require constant supervision. And once you notice that, the question isn't how to stay there. It's why we leave so quickly every time it appears. Think about how early comparison starts. Not aggressively, quietly. A glance at someone else's life online, a colleague's tone in a meeting, a neighbor's car, a friend's calm confidence. Before anything is decided, there's a subtle measuring. Am I ahead, behind, doing okay, missing something? It doesn't feel cruel, it feels practical, almost responsible. This habit didn't come from nowhere. We learned it, grades, performance reviews, social signals that tell us where we stand. Over time, this measuring becomes internal. You don't need anyone else anymore. You carry the scale inside. And then something strange happens. Even when life is objectively fine, there's a background tension, a sense of being slightly off, not enough, or needing to stay on top. It's easy to assume this is just human nature or personal insecurity. But notice what's really going on. Experience itself isn't painful. The body doesn't suffer from being a little slower today. The moment doesn't mind being ordinary. The discomfort appears when experience gets ranked. When what is gets compared to what should be. And the moment you see that, something softens. Not because comparison stops, but because it's no longer mistaken for reality itself. There's relief there, subtle, incomplete. Like seeing the source of a noise without yet turning it off. Notice what happens when there's nothing to fix. No urgent problem, no decision pressing, no clear next step. For many people, that space doesn't feel like freedom. It feels uncomfortable, almost suspicious. The mind looks around for something to improve: mood, productivity, outlook. Even calm gets evaluated. Am I calm enough? Is this the right kind of calm? Should I be doing something with this? It's easy to miss how much effort goes into being okay. Not outward effort, inner effort. A constant fine-tuning of yourself to match an image of how you think you should be. But in rare moments that tuning drops. Not because you decided to stop, but because there was nothing pushing it forward. And in those moments, nothing collapses, life doesn't drift off course. You don't become careless or passive. There's just a strange absence of the one trying to manage. That absence isn't dramatic, it doesn't feel like an answer. It feels more like stepping out of a role you didn't realize you were playing. And once you notice that role, you may start to wonder how often it's actually needed. What if nothing more needs to be understood right now? Not as an idea, as an experiment. For a moment, notice the room you're in, not the labels, just shapes, light, distance. Notice the body sitting, pressure where it meets the chair, the weight of your hands. Thoughts may still appear, that's fine, let them pass the way sounds do. No need to follow, no need to stop. What's interesting is this awareness is already here before any instruction arrives. You don't create it, you don't aim it, it's simply present. And in that presence, experience unfolds on its own, quietly, precisely. Nothing is concluded, nothing is claimed. Just a small recognition that whatever is seeing this moment doesn't need permission to do so. Stay with that for a few seconds longer. And notice what wants to speak next without answering it. At some point, the urge to figure this out softens. Not because you found an answer, but because something feels less off. Life hasn't changed, the world didn't rearrange itself, thoughts still come and go. But the way they land is different. There's a sense that much of what you've been carrying was never required in the first place, not wrong, just extra. Other living things don't seem burdened by how they appear to themselves. They move, they respond, they rest when they rest. No comparison, no internal commentary to correct. Humans are capable of something far more refined, but refinement doesn't come from adding layers. It comes from seeing when intelligence has turned inward and started managing itself. For the rest of today, you don't need to remember any of this. Just notice one moment when experience arrives before you explain it. And let it stay unexplained for half a second longer than usual. What happens then?